Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to invite Dr. Alice Laurendine to come up, one of our residents, and she's here with her husband, Ken. You're more than welcome to come up with her if you'd like. We want to recognize and have a proclamation read from tonight for Gynecologic Cancer Awareness Month. And we'll just stand right over here. We're going to have our esteemed attorney.
Whereas gynecologic or GYN cancers are among the leading cancer killers of women in the United States, and more than 125,000 women will be diagnosed and more than 33,000 women will die from these diseases this year, and the absence they leave in our hearts will be deeply felt forever. And whereas the Laura Crandall Brown Foundation and their Estate of Teal initiative brings awareness of all GYN cancers to the people throughout the state of Alabama, whereas the good health and well-being of women in our state and the city of Hoover are enhanced by increased awareness of GYN cancers and their symptoms and treatments. And whereas it is also crucial that all women in our state and the city of Hoover take an active role in learning the symptoms and risk factors associated with GYN cancers, developing healthy habits, and undergoing regular medical examinations so that any occurrence of these diseases may be detected in their early and treatable stages. And whereas we reflect upon the memory of those lost to these diseases, the bravery of those currently battling these diagnoses, and the need for increased awareness, screening, and research so that the women of our state might be spared from them in the future, and encourage all citizens to work together to raise awareness of GYN cancers. Now, therefore, I, Frank V. Bricado, Mayor of the City of Hoover, Alabama, do hereby proclaim September 2022 as Gynecologic Cancer Awareness Month throughout the city, and encourage all residents of Hoover to work together to raise awareness of GYN cancers, and do commend this observance to all of our citizens.
I'm a little short. I want to thank the council and Mayor Bricado for giving us an opportunity to make you all aware of some of the things we deal with in the state of Alabama and the United States. Gynecological cancers take 33,000 lives of the women every year. In addition to that, women who end up with ovarian cancer, which is one of the 6 or 7 gynecological cancers, we are the 6th in the nation for having the worst scenario. When I was about 42 years old, I came down with, I had a complete hysterectomy. Everything was removed. About 25 years later, when I was in my 60s, I had some unusual pain, ended up in the emergency room, and was told that I had ovarian cancer. And I told him that wasn't possible because I didn't have ovaries. But it was possible. It happens to 15% of the women. So for those of you that did not know that, I think that's very important. For you fellas out there, the most important thing you can do is to help your wives, your daughters, your sisters, your aunts, your cousins, whoever's complaining to you about things not being right. Make sure they get to the doctor that day or the very next day to save lives. We can't wait. The longer we wait, the more women die. So that's my message for you today, is to keep that in mind and be the advocate for those that you love. I appreciate this opportunity to make you all aware of a little something that we deal with. And thank you so much, Mayor, for this.
And is anyone here, Miss Pat Talty by chance? Is she here? Well, hello, Pat. I didn't see you down there. And we have a proclamation recognizing Constitution Week and the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. Pat is here to join us, and Jan.
Whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week, now therefore, I, Frank V. Mercado, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Hoover, Alabama, do proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution from 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to our guests for being here. It's my understanding, Councilman McClinton, you have some special guests in the chamber you'd like to recognize?
Yes, I do. I would like to recognize Mr. Sabu Bowden and Sagar Bravely. They are coming here to Hoover to bring in another fantastic cricket tournament, and they have a few words to speak about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the council members and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk to you about a tournament that we are going to organize in Hoover. We are from an organization called Tabla, Telugu Association of Birmingham, Alabama. And I was the founder president of the organization. And this association represents the people from southern part of India, 2 states, and we speak a language called Telugu. That is where the name came from. And I would like to introduce the current president of the association. He will talk about the association a little bit, and then I'll come back and talk to you about the tournament. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, council members, and all the guests, Mayor Brocato. Thank you for the opportunity. So yeah, like Subbu said, I currently lead Tabla. It's a non-profit organization that we founded in 2009. It's been like 13, 14 years. The main goal of Tabla is to identify the social, cultural needs of the people from 2 southern parts of India, like Alabama, Florida. We have 2 states, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So we represent people from those 2 states who have been living here in the Birmingham area. So what Tabla does various events throughout the year. We do all the cultural events and also we do kite festival, picnic, and sports mela. In sports mela, we do volleyball, cricket tournaments, badminton, tennis, table tennis every year. And there are some pictures that we're going to show in a second about all the events that we do. And as a non-profit, we also, do food drives, donate money to charitable organizations as well. These are some of the pictures that you see on the screen. The first one is Batkama, where, women love that festival. The second one is like a picnic that we have done at Veterans Park. And third picture on the top row, there's a volleyball tournament and followed by kids cricket. And recently, 2 weeks ago, we did the table tennis tournament. So there was a picture from table tennis tournament. So we usually organize this sports meet every year around, this month, August, September. This year also we are organizing a bunch of events. We just done with tennis and table tennis. We are going to organize a cricket tournament on September 17th and 18th. The main reason that we are here is to introduce ourselves as an organization to all the guests here and also to the council members and invite you all to our cricket event. So there's going to be fun. We're going to have presentation ceremony on 18th, and we have delicious food that is free for all our players and guests, and some beautiful music too. So like all you, if you get a chance, we really appreciate if you can come, come by and encourage our players. Thank you.
The cricket tournament actually, usually we have 12 to 14 teams. Each team contains 10 players. This tournament goes over the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. And we did one tournament in 2019, the Hoover Cricket Tournament. It is similar to that. I know a lot of you came and participated in the games. Thanks to Steve and Mike Shah for allowing us to do that tournament. And this tournament, there will be at least 200 to 250 people during that time. And thanks to Steve McClinton for helping me getting the fields. And this tournament will be in the Hoover East fields, and we will be playing there on 17th and 18th of this month. And as Sagar said, there will be free food. As you all know, the Indian spicy food that you probably want to try it, and it'll be during the presentation ceremony and everything. There will be music, there will be celebration, and we would like to invite you all come watch the games and have nice food and nice time during that 2 days. And also, talking about the cricket tournaments, we did a lot of cricket tournaments around Birmingham area, but this is the first time as an organization we are doing it in Hoover. We have a good number of people from India living in Hoover, and we would love to do all these tournaments in Hoover. Not only just cricket, we want to do the ping pong, we want to do table, volleyball, badminton, everything. In Hoover, I would like to request you all to give us, consider our request to get some fields for the same. And we do a lot of events in Veterans Park. Veterans Park is the place where we play the volleyball tournaments every year. And also, we do at least 2 events in Veterans Park. One is the kite flying, and the other one is our signature event, the Tabla Day. And we give away the trophies during the Tabla Day event. So we would like to invite you all to come and have a nice time during those 2 days. And we will send an official invite to the email ID that Steve gave me. And thank you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now move to our consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented as items that will be taken as one reading and one block vote. I'll ask members of the body if there are any items that they would like moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda.
Mr.
I'd
President,
like number 8 to be moved to the consent agenda, to the regular agenda, because it was an item we were looking to withdraw.
Item 8, okay. I'd like to move item 12. Mr. McClinton, do you have one?
item 11, resolution number 678122.
Item 11. Madam Clerk, do you make note of those? Very good. Any member of the public here who is here to speak on behalf of any item 6 through 13, of course, we've already moved items 12, 8, and 11. Any other item member of the public would like to speak on? Seeing none, if Mr. Corley, if you'll continue with the reading.
Item number 6 is resolution number 677622, which authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for the installation of ITS infrastructure on U.S. Highway 31 in Shelby County at 2 intersections, U.S. Highway 31 at Parkway Lake Drive and U.S. Highway 31 at River Chase Parkway East. Item number 7 is Resolution 677722, which authorizes the acceptance of the bid of Avery Landscape and Associates, LLC, in the amount of $327,742 for the Inverness Center Sidewalk Phase 1 bid number 22-016 for a sidewalk project located along Inverness Center Drive between Highway 280 and Valleydale Road, authorizing Mayor Brocato to execute an agreement for such. Next item is number 9, Resolution 677922, which authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into a designation of dissemination agent agreement with Raymond James for continuing disclosure of debt reporting required by warrant agreements, rating agencies, SEC, and other federal agencies and GASB standards. Next item is Resolution 678022. This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with CSA Service Solutions, doing business as EMSAR, for updated agreement for preventative maintenance and repairs on EMS stretchers and to execute any and all necessary documents for such agreement. The next item on the consent agenda is Resolution 678322. This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to execute a land purchase agreement with CCRC Propco Galleria Woods LLC for 0.17 acres, identified by parcel ID number 39-00-23-4-000-001.002, and to execute any and all necessary documents for such agreement.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, just, Mr. President, and just a comment, just on 6 and 7, probably more so 7, if we just make sure, and I'm sure we have, that all utilities on any sidewalk projects, we ensure we have no conflict of valve boxes or gas boxes, because I'm hearing that the utilities are having challenges with the sidewalk having to be moved at a later date or torn back out. So just before we start, just make sure we've done all that. And I'm sure we have. I just want to make sure I make that point.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We have a motion and second for approval of all items on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now move to the regular agenda, begin with item number 8, resolution number 6778-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to execute a transit service agreement with the BJCTA for transportation needs in the city of Hoover and any and all documents necessary for the execution of such agreement.
Mr. President, I move to withdraw resolution number 6778-22.
Second.
We have a motion and second for withdrawal. Any questions or comments from the body? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Now, item number 11, resolution number 6781-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with Samsara, Inc. for fleet lifecycle management and comprehensive cost-benefit analysis, and to execute any and all documents necessary for such agreement.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6781-22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Rice, I know we discussed this on Thursday night at our work session, but welcome back.
Thank you, sir. We just had a little bit of additional information we wanted to present on this. Mr. Abdak is here with me this evening, and of course, take any questions that might have come up in the interim about this particular item. A few months ago, when fuel prices began to spike and stay up and with no end in sight, we asked our city auditing firm, Barfield Murphy, to undertake a fuel audit and look at our fuel management program and what we're doing and how we could improve. And one of their recommendations at the end of that, they had several very good recommendations, was to implement fleet telematics. And that's what this is. This is a fleet telematic device. Our main interest was to obtain fleet maintenance data on vehicle utilization, fuel economy, fuel usage, cost of ownership of vehicles, et cetera, things that we don't currently have access to. This particular product is just one of many. We did reach out and do some research with some other governments in the state of Alabama, particularly the city of Auburn, who, I thought you were putting me on the clock there for a minute. I was going to start talking really fast. The city of Auburn, who uses another package that complements our ERP program that you're all very familiar with. And so they referred us to this particular vendor. We do have a list of other customers, both municipal and private customers in the state, and I think around the United States, who use this particular product. We've been told by our liability insurance carrier that we'll receive a 5% discount on our auto insurance premiums by implementing this program. Just right off the bat, we get a 5% premium break because they can give us trends that will allow us to create safe driving programs for employees that we don't currently have the ability to do because we don't have the data. There's also some potential liability protection in this because, as you're aware, anytime there's an accident or an incident involving a city motor vehicle, you know, we're kind of subject to that deep pockets perception, and people try to bring action against the city, whether or not it's really probably warranted. We've got a couple of cases pending right now where we firmly believe that our employee operating a city vehicle was not at fault, yet we're facing claims because it was a city vehicle. And so people make claims about speed, and they never braked, and they never did this, and they never did that. And this would give us access, immediate access, without having to go through a subpoena and those kind of things, to that kind of data to protect the city against spurious claims. We think that we need to right-size our city fleet. 500 vehicles just feels like way too many for basically 670 full-time employees and about 130 part-time employees. We've found vehicles very recently that have not been used in months, that are sitting in parking lots. I found one week before last. I think I sent you a picture. 2 vehicles sitting in a city parking lot, leaves and pine straw packed up under the tires. They've not moved in a long time, and there was a branch down across one of them. The branch was dead. So we got too many vehicles. We need to figure out where they are. We've not been able to get a comprehensive list of the fleet up till now, and this will help us track our assets. I think there was a little bit of concern expressed about the location service provision of this. I want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll certainly take questions. You know, he does such a wonderful job as Chief Operations Officer. Sometimes we forget that Mr. Aldaca remains a sworn law enforcement officer. And so he remains responsible for our city card access program, our security camera program, et cetera. And so there are access controls built into who can see recorded video, who can download it, who has access to the actual swipe data on our card access system. This would function the same way. This would function under his authority, and he would control who can get in and see the telematics to include location services. We have partial location capability now through the police department MDTs, but that only applies to the computer itself and not the vehicle. So unfortunately, if the MDT is off or if it gets stolen, the tracking capability is not tied to the car itself, so we have no way to locate the vehicle itself. If we were subject to vehicle theft, which unfortunately we've seen a trend of police cars and ambulances from emergency rooms, you know, periodically you see that on the news where somebody hops in a idling city vehicle and takes off with it. Hadn't happened to us, but if it does right now, unless it's a police vehicle and the MDT is in it and it's turned on, we have no way to determine where that vehicle is. This would give us the ability to instantly log in through Mr. Aldaca's authority and at least tell the police department where our vehicle is and where it's headed. And that would also apply to some city equipment, particularly some of the public works equipment that could be outfitted with this. It'll help us guard against, unfortunately, the potential for inappropriate use of city vehicles or equipment. If you see a city backhoe that sits at my house over the weekend, you should be asking questions about that. I have no business having that piece of city equipment on my private property. That's the type of thing that we could identify. Nobody's going to be watching this. Quite frankly, none of us have time to sit at a screen and watch where all these things are. But if my neighbor were to call the mayor and say, hey, there's a backhoe at his house that has a City of Hoover sticker on it. What's he doing? Looks like he's digging himself a pool. The mayor would be able to go to Jihad, and Jihad could pull that up and say, yeah, he's had a backhoe at his house for the last 72 hours. That would be an example of something we need to know. We've had a couple of very unfortunate, very unfortunate HR matters where we needed to go back and kind of retroactively determine where an employee was or where they weren't. And it was a process to have to do that. This would give us the ability to do that with ease in those very rare circumstances where that became a concern. We were all extremely proud when this council approved an incentive deal that brought McLeod software into Hoover. That was a big time about 5 years ago. McLeod Software is the largest computer programming software development company in the Birmingham metro area, and their business is fleet telematics. If you notice, we've all seen them all up and down the road on the back of semi-trucks, powered by McLeod Software. This is that. They do it for over-the-road trucking industry. This is that kind of product for our municipal fleet. So hopefully that's illuminated some reasons we think this is a great idea, and we'd love to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Rice on this item?
Mr. President, just a couple for me. And fleet management systems are utilized in multiple places around the nation. Just a couple items. Now, I'm assuming this software has options that you can cut on, cut off. I know we talked briefly about speeding in miles per hour, I believe. But just kind of keep, in my experience, just keep in mind, just whatever we ask to view in the courtroom, possibly the other group can ask for the same information, even if it's not pending case. So from a liability standpoint, we may want to consider that. And also, just from a HR standpoint, thinking some, maybe some challenges possibly. Again, I'm not an attorney, just want to throw it out there with the enforcement, if you will, of disciplinary actions around speeding, give or take, plus or minus. It's some challenges around trying to enforce that. Many organizations don't even enforce that piece because is a challenge behind that with your staffing. So I just want to throw that out there. Y'all may work through all those pieces, but those are just my two comments.
Right, and we have, obviously, the majority of our fleet is public safety, and they have reason and legal authority to exceed the speed limit on a regular basis. We'd have to take that into account. And again, nobody's going to be sitting around looking to see who's speeding. If we were to be sued or have a notice of claim filed, if we were to receive a complaint about a particular city vehicle, it would at least give us some way to look into that and determine whether or not there was validity to it. But your points are incredibly well made. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Rice? Thank you,
Mr. President.
Murphy. Yes, sir.
Mr. Rice, I'm new on this council, less than 2 years, so it's interesting that you're proposing this, but this whole time, the city never has had a fleet management software where it can track how many miles the vehicles have. No one's ever proposed that?
No, sir. Actually, no, that's not correct. It was proposed the very first budget that we were involved in the last term when we came in, and there had been a continuing resolution passed, and we were putting together a budget right out of the gate. And there was a proposal at that time through a different vendor, but the cost was extremely high. I think I remember it being $450,000 a year. And of course, this is a fourth of that cost. So it was brought forward in a budget recommendation many years ago, and we just didn't have the funds to act on it at that point in time. To my knowledge, that's the only time it's ever been proposed, but it's possible that it was sometime in the past that I'm not aware of.
So, for transparency, how many bids were looked at?
This is actually off of a cooperative purchasing process, so it's not a bid item.
Okay. And I'm real big about personal liberty, so this is no kind of big brother kind of stuff. It's gonna enhance
No.
people, but it's not gonna overlook and oversee them.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Big Brother is a reference from 1984, the novel George Orwell. That was the government spying on private citizens in their home. This is the government tracking the assets that private citizens pay for us to use. So this is actually not at all like that. And again, nobody has time, trust me, neither Jihad nor I nor anybody else has time to sit and look at a screen and see who's going where. The GPS component was not something we were necessarily seeking. We were after the fleet management data component. That is an added benefit, and that is part of the reason we'll get the 5% discount. But nobody has time to sit and watch who goes where. It's only if it comes up, there's a complaint, there's an accident, there's some kind of triggering issue that we need to be able to go in and get that data.
So on top of that, this will allow us, if we ever get audited, we can find out, you can tell which vehicle, how many miles they've gone. You'll be able to track it pristinely.
We'll see it in real time, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, we had a situation, Debbie Carrier, our risk manager, made me aware of a few years ago. We did a physical audit of the fleet, had everybody bring city cars through at the fuel island, check door decal and everything. And she saw some cars show up that had been declared surplus by a council in the past and were still being operated. The problem there is that they're taking off the insurance when they're declared surplus. And so there was a disconnect between this council's action and what was happening in real life. A system like this would allow us to say, why do we still have unit 7529 out driving around? That was on the surplus list. That's supposed to be auctioned. We were able to quickly rectify that, and this was several years back. We don't want to be in that boat. We want to know what we own, where it is, whether or not it should be replaced now, or if it still has some life, usable fleet life. And we want to be sure if you gentlemen have declared it surplus, we've removed it from the inventory and it's no longer being operated by city employees.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Mr. President, I have one.
Yes, sir.
I know we've talked a lot about the surveillance part of it, is what I think we could call it better, or what it's been called, but.
I want to call it GPS location.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. But what I'm looking at from a finance standpoint is, is this software going to track all the times that you get a trouble code on that vehicle? And if we see one that's got 10 or 15, that we're probably going to replace that vehicle. This software does that as well, right?
Yeah, my understanding is this ports in, you can give them a little more detail. I think it ports into the diagnostic port that's on every fairly modern vehicle, and that's exactly the kind of information. Mr. Aldaka can illuminate that.
That is correct, and you could set it up where if there's an alert or a fault alert comes on the vehicle, that it could send an email or a notification to our fleet management, and they will be able to look at that, and they could pull the report themselves just to see how many vehicles does have that fault or alert on it. And they could pull this vehicle in and address the issue at that time.
That's great, and I think that's something that was getting lost in translation, is that you're going to be able to know what you need to replace and have your data with there to bring in and say, well, I got to replace this truck because of these issues.
Because just pulling the data, just exactly like Mr. Rice said, from the diagnostic port. I mean, there's no entry, no human error is going to be. Your mileage, your VIN, your engine hours, anything that you need to pull is going to be pulled directly from that vehicle.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, to follow up Mr. Posey's comment, just to clarify, so if someone has a vehicle, they feel like, man, this vehicle is junk, this software is going to be able to track how much we have spent on this vehicle, parts and costs and all that?
No, that's phase 2 of our ERP. Okay, that's our fleet and asset management software that we are looking to as well. This right here is gonna pull up, let's say if I need to, when it comes to budget time, I wanna see how many vehicles has 150,000 mileage. I could pull that report without going to fleet, risk management, asking for your Excel sheet. Let me see your Excel sheet, how many vehicles do we have on? And the majority of the time does not have the accurate mileage, does not have the accurate engine hours. So what happens is they have to physically get that information for at least to do a cost benefit analysis. So this way it's all in this software, in this database, and you could pull up that report and be able to see which vehicle really has high mileage and has engine hours.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
I know a lot of software has kind of audit the audit or internal audit functions, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but it's a pretty deep question. In call recording or financial services, you can't just go looking through data without that access being logged. Do you know if this software? Okay, somebody looked at
Yes, sir,
a
we
location, then it'll say this person looked at for this location.
It has an audit log that I could go in there and pull up a report and see who's looking at what.
Okay.
And you could pull that monthly, weekly, whatever you want to do. And it will tell us, Jihad al-Daka looked at this vehicle, GPS looked at this vehicle mileage, whatever. I mean, it gives you a detail of what that person, because we are gonna set users based on their roles and permissions. And that's how you track everything else as well.
Okay, so it's not like people can just go in there and look at this data without that access being logged, and if there's ever a question, the audit can be audited,
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
That's a great question.
In closing, Mr. President, I would point out that we don't, on our email system, we don't have any expectation of privacy as users, as public employees. In our offices, there are things we are clearly not allowed to do on city property. This is just an extension of that concept. I operate a city-assigned vehicle. I have no expectation of privacy. I don't get to use that vehicle any way I choose, and I have no problem with people knowing where I went and what I did with that vehicle. And I can't envision that any city employee would have a concern. We had a very, very unfortunate situation, as you're all aware, about 4 years ago. One of our police officers went into cardiac arrest at the SEC tournament, and we could not find him for several minutes. And the fact that he's alive today is absolutely miraculous. We could not find him, and he was in his car about 100 feet away from the command post. That's a prime example of why it's a great idea to know where our people are based on their vehicles. This has health and safety implications for city employees. If I pull into a parking lot to go to a meeting and I don't make it inside, I hope somebody comes looking for me quickly. And I don't think that's a point we should lose. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Mr. Sweeney, you and I haven't had a bite at the apple. You have anything? Okay. Any questions from the audience on this item? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion. Yes, sir. If you come down to the microphone and give us your name and address, you're welcome to speak.
My name is Clem Burchett. I live at 114 Southview Drive in Hoover. It's two questions. One, I'm nominally aware of Samsara out of San Francisco. I do a lot of business in the Bay Area. We have a company locally actually called Fleetio. Are you guys familiar with it? Did you look at Fleetio? Yes, okay. We looked at several of them. And secondly would be my biggest concern as a cybersecurity guy would be, are they getting third-party audited, some kind of SOC or ISO audit to verify that their information security is actually protecting, since this is a third-party vendor? Have we looked in that?
We did look at them and they are secure, yes, sir.
What are they SOC certified or ISO?
I don't know about that certification, but we
Okay.
did ask about that because it does involve all of our things, and we want to make sure
Sure.
that we are sole source of accessing that data, nobody else.
Okay. I would just be curious of what level of audit that was.
They would have to be limited on, listed on a cooperative purchase like that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We now move to item number 12, Resolution 6782-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to execute a quitclaim deed to Birch Tree Swim and Racket Club, Inc. for the property on which the club is located, and to execute any and all necessary documents for such agreement.
Mr. President, I move to continue resolution number 6782-22 to the 10-3 council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this item to October 3rd. Any questions or comments from the body? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 13 is resolution number 6783-22. Mr. Corley. We've already done it. Thank you. We're now to 14. Now to the regular agenda. Item number 14, ordinance number 22-2577. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance authorizes the annexation of property located at 3449 Ridgecrest Drive. And this would be a public hearing for that ordinance.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance number 22-2577.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that does require a public hearing. We'll open that public hearing by asking any member of the body who has a question or comment about the ordinance.
I would just say that the clerk indicated that the property owner has paid all fees for all fire dues. Got that notification, I guess, between now and the work session.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the public during the public hearing of this item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. McClinton?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye. A vote of 7 ayes, 0 nays, the motion carries, and the ordinance is adopted. Item number 15 is ordinance number 22-2578. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance modifies Chapter 7, Fire Prevention and Protection of the Hoover Municipal Code to prohibit sale, possession, use, storage, distribution, and manufacturing of certain pyrotechnics and fireworks in the city of Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance number 22-2578.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This does require a public hearing, which we will now open and ask members of the body if they have any comments or questions for Chief Bentley on this item. Any member of the public who would like to speak on this item? Yes, sir. If we could get your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Steve Grondin. I live at 199 Trace Ridge Road. I would like to move against the adoption of this ordinance. I find it is extremely restrictive and doesn't, too broad. I specifically object to the restriction of possession and storage and keeping, as mentioned lower in the thing, of consumer-grade fireworks. I think that consumer-grade fireworks are exceedingly safe as they're stored and used. They're much safer than storing gasoline, but I don't see any regulations about not storing gasoline in your garage. I don't see any regulation about not keeping your car, which might have gasoline, in your garage. I could spend a lot of time waxing poetic about the history of fireworks and patriotism, how much I enjoy our annual fireworks displays that the council puts on. I don't see any exception in this regulation for those displays. I see that other states, like New York and California and New Jersey, for instance, permit the type of fireworks that are prohibited in this regulation. So I think if we want to be on record for being more restrictive than those states, I think that's a bad precedent. I look at the items that are prohibited in this list, and they include party poppers, snappers, which I would call snapping pops, and snakes. Now, I'm not against reasonable regulation. I don't think producing fireworks is a thing a consumer needs to do. You know, I'm not talking about homemade fireworks. I'm talking about consumer-grade fireworks that are regulated. And I just think this is way too broad, way too restrictive for any potential public safety benefit. I mean, the country of Germany allows possession of fireworks. So I urge the members to vote against this extremely restrictive regulation.
If I could offer just one point of clarity. The possession, sale, use of these has been prohibited in the city of Hoover for many, many years. So that's not new, okay?
Possession has been, so what you're,
what we're changing tonight is we're changing the ordinance to mirror that which the state of Alabama legislature passed last year that added some items to it. So this is not a total overhaul. This is not a new restriction on any firework over years past. I don't know the year. I dare say decades, Chief, that these things have been illegal in the city of Hoover. Yeah. So
No,
we're not coming to look in your garage to see if you have them. Okay, that's not the way it operates. But this is not a major change in that.
So you're telling me that if I were to purchase legally in the state of Alabama fireworks, I could not drive through the city of Hoover to go to a rural location, say my brother-in-law's farm, to shoot fireworks by law?
The ordinance speaks to possession of that, but that's not the way the city of Hoover operates. We're not going to have checkpoints at the end of your driveway or your street to check on those things. It's been this way for years. This is in place to mainly regulate the sale of those. There's a concern from the fire department that failure to add these other items and the sale of those could be appearing in Publix and Walmart and Costco. So it's our desire to more regulate the sale of that.
Could you draft a regulation that is narrow in scope to restrict the sale? That would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have anybody else like to speak tonight? Have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. McClinton?
Nay.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye. 6 ayes, 1 nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is adopted. We'll now have a first reading. Item number 16, Resolution 6775-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of such nuisance pursuant to Alabama law at 3534 Avon Drive, and directs the abatement thereof or a setting of a public hearing for September 19th, 2022. Sorry.
We will have a second reading on September 19th, and we hope the mower has been utilized and this property has been cut before then.